So let me break down for you my guess as to what happens if any of these presidential candidates wins. The only one who I think has a chance of averting another economic crash is, of course, Bernie Sanders. Why do I say that? Because he would immediately at least attempt to break up the big banks. If he does, he would dissipate their power, and they use that power now to accrue a lot of gambling in one casino, right? And that means a lot more risk. And if something goes wrong, it could take down the whole bank with it, which would take down the other banks, which would take down the entire economy. If Bernie Sanders can get ahead of that, maybe, just maybe, he might be able to stop the next economic crash. Now, yes, I am assuming that there will be an economic crash. I'm not assuming that because, oh, they happen every once in a while. But everyone I have talked to, is now significantly concerned, not just the writers, not just the people who cover Wall Street and the different markets, that's also true, but actually they're usually a little bit late to the game. They're beginning to get a sense of it. You see stock market has dipped a little bit, but that's just the water receding before the tsunami. That's not the big deal yet. China has huge structural problems, and now investors that I talk to, Wall Street guys, are saying, time to kind of back out of this room a little bit. Okay, there could be a significant problem. Now, no one thinks that it's going to be on the scale that I think it is. I think the next problem is going to be unsolvable, right? Because we have loaded up the Fed with debt. It makes no sense. That's not how you're supposed to run a Federal Reserve. And they're buying crappy, toxic products from the banks. Why is the Fed buying stuff? That makes no sense at all, right? And so if they go to take money out of the Fed, which they will, to solve a crash, they could crash the Fed. If they crash the Fed, the whole global economy is screwed, okay? In a way that will be unparalleled, right? So Bernie Sanders, some chance that he might be able to avoid that. Hillary Clinton will run straight into that iceberg. She will not change anything about the banking system. They will have that crash. Marco Rubio.
He'll accelerate.
He'll accelerate into the iceberg. That's right. That's exactly right. And once the crash happens, I'll get to Trump and Cruz in a second. Once the crash happens, Hillary Clinton will obviously try to get out of the iceberg. Okay, we hit it, we're sinking, but go left, try to get out of here, right? Rubio will keep powering into the iceberg. Yeah. He will hit that gas pedal further, and we will have a monstrous collapse under Rubio. Okay, these are all my speculation. We'll see if I'm right.
Should I take my money out of my IRA, like right now?
Okay.
Should I just do that?
And also, with all these things, you never know the timing. And I'll say up front, I thought that crash would happen much earlier, and it hasn't happened yet. So take that, what I'm saying, with a grain of salt, right? And the timing is the hardest thing in the world to predict. So with Trump, he'll hit the iceberg, right? He's too much of a clown. He won't even see it.
He'll be busy suing the New York Times.
That's right. Once he hits the iceberg, he can go anywhere. He can go hard right and say, I'm now the leader. I'm shutting down the New York Times for libel. I'm shutting down the press. We've got a crisis, and in a crisis, you need a strong leader. I'm seizing all power. Okay, so that is almost the worst case scenario. By the way, he could also go left. Like, you don't know who Trump's going to do. Trump's a total wild card. That's why the Republican establishment hates him. Yeah. Right? He could come in and go, yeah, I'm seizing all power. By the way, we're breaking up all the big banks, and we're done with that. Right? It could happen. Right? So he's a little bit more of a wild card, but his worst case scenario is really, really, really bad. Right? Cruz is not. He's going to go far enough right, and hold. And he won't be unstable like Trump. Right? He'll think, good. This is a crisis. Now we get to do it our way. I'm going to use the crisis to take the country right, and I'm just going to drive right into the darkness. Okay? So whatever you do, do not put Cruz in. If we're going to have an economic crash, that is the exact kind of guy that kills the democracy and drives us into a right-wing dystopia. You can say I'm exaggerating. I'm not.
And let's be clear, a Christian right-wing dystopia. Yeah. The answer will be we need to clamp down on these people have been sinning. That's what's ruined America.
People aren't getting married anymore. If people get married, the economy will improve, which,
that
by the way,
sort of
is
shit.
a Republican talking point.
Exactly. Like Trump has avoided most of that language, but there are lots of leaders historically that are like, no, we don't need to break up the banks. What do banks have to do with the economy? No, it's your loose morals. I think that he would
it's all the
inject all of
masturbation
that.
in prison is what I'm hearing.
That's probably what it is.
So one last thing about all this speculation, admitted speculation, is that if it's Hillary Clinton who's in charge when we hit the iceberg, well, then the Cruzes of the world are going to come back in 4 years and they're going to say, I told you so, right? And they might not win that battle. And by the way, progressives might primary Hillary Clinton under a scenario like that. Because remember, then you're in a crisis and anything could happen, right? If it's Rubio who's in charge, then almost certainly a progressive champion will rise up 4 years from now and take the country back by storm and go definitely in the leftward direction.